Great. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining. So this session, I'm hoping that you'll learn a little bit about WRAP and what we do, the work we do, and more so about Live Food Hate Waste, and our first ever Food Waste Action Week, which is this week. I hope also that you'll pick up a few tips and bits of advice that will help you do your bit to reduce the amount of food that you chuck in the bin, which is really the challenge for Food Waste Action Week and beyond. So I am a behaviour change project manager. I work in the Citizen Food Waste Prevention team at WRAP, and I'll just take you through what we'll try and cover today. So I'll tell you a little bit about WRAP and the work that we're doing to fight food waste. We'll cover off food waste, some of the key stats, what's the big deal, what's the big problem, just to give you a sense of food waste and the problem that it poses. Tell you a little bit more about Food Waste Action Week, and how really, how do we get people to think about our collective food waste as a problem and the consequences it has for the planet. And then we'll talk about the challenge for Food Waste Action Week, so some of the tips and hacks for reducing food waste in the home. So who's WRAP? WRAP is one of the world's leading sustainability charities. We're based in the UK. We have offices in Oxford and Cardiff, and we've got projects around the world. We work with various businesses, governments, charities and citizens to make the planet a healthier and safer place. So WRAP's work covers a variety of resources. You see our sort of tagline there. Our vision is a world where resources are used sustainably, and we actually work across clothing, plastics and food. In 2007, WRAP launched the Live Food Hate Waste brand to help people at home to waste less food, and it really is an awareness raising and a knowledge providing brand. So we offer tips and advice to make this as easy as possible for people. At WRAP, we also carry out regular research to understand how people behave when it comes to food. So, how well do we plan, maybe what motivates us to use our food, what the barriers are for us to use our food. And of course, we track how much food is being wasted in our homes. So, within the team that I work with, which is really focused on consumer food waste prevention, so that is citizens, householders, we've got a strategy to help people to reduce the food they waste, and it's realised in a number of different ways. So we've got our consumer campaigns, so Love Food Hate Waste being one of them. It's our citizen-facing brand that is behaviourally informed in its messaging. We use this to increase motivation and knowledge, and we run a number of campaigns throughout the year. Food Waste Action Week this week being our biggest yet. In other areas of the team, we also, so looking at the right-hand side of the screen, we have a provision of technical change and best practice guidance. So this is things such as advice on optimal labelling, packaging and storage, and working with manufacturers to realise and to adhere to the guidance and the best practice. And then we've also got Behaviour Change Interventions team. This is actually the team that I typically sit within. Within this team, we apply behavioural science to analyse current food-related behaviours or food waste behaviours, and we identify what facilitates those desired behaviours or how we might overcome or remove the barriers to people doing the right thing and not wasting food. And within this team, we develop discrete, specific interventions that ultimately reduce consumer food waste. And we need to take this sort of three-pronged approach to food waste prevention or food waste reduction, because motivation and knowledge alone won't change people's behaviours, and sometimes we need to like I said, make it easier for people to do the right thing and not waste food. And maybe that's through technical change or sort of change with packaging, but it might also be a specific intervention to get people to undertake the correct behaviour. Okay, so what am I talking about when I say food waste or household food waste? Well, it means just that. It's the food that we throw away from our homes and our households, and that's opposed to that we throw away, or that is thrown away maybe on farm or from supermarkets, food manufacturers, or the hospitality industry, so restaurants, hotels and caterers. This is the food that we as consumers waste from the home, the food that we buy and the food that we consume at home. And when I talk about wasted food, what I mean is it's the good stuff. It's the good stuff that could have been eaten, the products or parts of the product that are perfectly edible and that were always intended for human consumption. There are, of course, some parts of the food which are inedible, and that's the stuff not usually eaten, like bones, rinds, stones, eggshells, that sort of thing. And our work is not focused on the inedible, it's really focused on the edible. So it's not about getting people to start crunching eggshells and popping them in a pie. It's the practical, the usable food. So these two things, the wasted food and inedible parts, is what makes up the food waste. So let's look at some of the key facts about food waste, because I think it's really important to understand the scale of the problem. Most of the UK's food waste, so not including on-farm, comes from the home. So 6.6 million tonnes of food is thrown away from our household every year. Actually, it's 70% of all food waste in the UK is from citizens in our own homes. So that means the rest is made up by the retailers, manufacturers and hospitality, like I said before, combined, but that's just around 30%. So each year, in our households, 4.5 million tonnes of that food could have been eaten and is completely edible. So it's quite staggering, really. So the average UK household throws away the equivalent of 8 meals per week. That's around 16% of our food shopping. It's like throwing away £60 a month on average for a family with children, or £700 a year worth of food ending up in the bin. And I think we can all think of nice things that we can spend £700 on. So the 4.5 million tonnes of food that could have been eaten is worth around £14 billion every year to the UK economy. The carbon associated with food waste is equivalent to that generated by 1 in 5 cars. And I'll come a bit more to the impact of climate change further on. Our most wasted food groups include things like fresh vegetables, salads, drinks, bakery and meals. And we waste food because, well, there's a number of reasons, but some key reasons are that we just simply don't use it in time. So this refers to food going past the date on the label, or it went rotten, mouldy, or was otherwise not fit to eat. It might just be down to personal preference, so it could mean that we just simply didn't like it, but it can also mean that we didn't eat the whole of the ingredients. So things that are still edible, like potato skins, bread crusts, bread ends, and that all count towards the wasted food. Or we cook, prepare and serve too much. I think it's quite common for people to maybe over portion their rice and pasta, or maybe overestimate how many meals you can get out of a sack of potatoes. In terms of attitudes and understanding, we know that there's some work to do. So our research shows that 81% of people in the UK are concerned about climate change, but only 37% realise that wasting food contributes to that climate change. And so I'm going to show you a video on the next slide, which has been created for Food Waste Action Week. So let me hope that this plays.
Climate change is here, and it's changing the way our world looks. causing floods, fires and droughts. Climate change puts everyone on this planet at risk. Producing our food is one of the biggest contributors to climate change, but 1/3 of all food is lost or wasted globally. Wasting food feeds climate change. We can all make a difference. Visit lovefoodhatewaste.com.
So around 1/3 of the food that we produce worldwide is lost or wasted, and it's having a really significant impact on climate change. In fact, it contributes a staggering 8 to 10% of the total man-made greenhouse gas emissions. Wasted food accounts for more greenhouse gas emissions globally than all of the commercial flights we take each year. And I think the kind of understanding of the resources, the energy, the water, the land that it takes to produce the food in the first place also has an impact when we waste it on the climate. This week, WRAP and Love Food Hate Waste are working hard to bring together businesses, manufacturers and people at home to raise awareness of the impact that wasting food has on the planet. And I think 2020 has connected us more than ever with the planet, and we want to use this to encourage people to take action and transform the way that we all manage our food for the better, and understand how some of those small actions at home in making sure you make the most of the resources and the food that you buy to avoid contributing to this. So let's have a look at what foods we waste the most, and maybe this will sort of bring it back to home for you a little bit. Now I can't see the comments on while I'm in presentation mode, but I've asked David if I ask a couple of questions and you were to write them in the comments, that he can maybe let me know what the answers are. So we'll see how it works. So I'd like you to guess what food item you think might be the top of the list. Pop it in the comments. What one food do you think we waste the most of in the UK? So we waste 710,000 tonnes of it every year. The whole food item is edible, and it's the equivalent of 4.4 million whole of this item every single day that ends up in the bin. Wasting it costs us £555 million a year. So has anyone made a guess?
We've got two people typing at the moment.
Okay, we'll give it a sec.
Potatoes is the first guess.
Okay, and what else have we got?
Amandeep, I don't know whether you're typing or whether you've just got your cursor in the message box.
Okay, well, I'll give the answer then, and it is yes, in fact, the humble potato. So have you got any suggestions of what else might be in the top 10 wasted foods? If anyone has anything, do pop it in the comments. Any action on comments?
Not currently.
No problem. Okay.
I'm going to guess that bananas might be one of them, though.
Oh, bananas isn't on the top 10 actually. Although, you know, one of those food items that is definitely very easy to, you know, it's very visual when it's sort of gone past its best, isn't it? So we've got potatoes on there. We can see number 2 is bread, and these are most wasted by weight rather than number of items. This list is by weight. So we've got milk at number 3, meals, that includes homemade and pre-prepared meals, fizzy drinks at number 5, sorry, and I think maybe we overlook drinks in our thoughts of waste in the home. And then you can see the most wasted meats are poultry and pork. And potato actually features twice, so processed potatoes at number 10. So that's things like chips, wedges, waffles, also quite high on the food waste list. So it's really staggering actually when you convert these weights. from our research into actual numbers of products. So I mentioned 4.4 million potatoes, but you can also see there 20 million slices of bread ending up in the bin every single day in the UK. 1.2 million tomatoes, 3.1 million glasses of milk, 2.2 million slices of ham. I mean, the list goes on. These figures are every day, like I said, and I think it might be easier for us to think about how each individual can make a difference. When there's 65 million people living in the UK, I think our small actions, the small actions of each and every person, very easily and very quickly make up these huge, huge numbers. So with it being Food Waste Action Week, every day this week we're focusing on a different behaviour. We've got some cool influencers getting involved with the campaign, including the amazing Nadia Hussain from Bake Off. And she's joining us in the media and on social, and we've got lots of tips and advice coming from Love Food Hate Waste this week. And really the challenge is to encourage people to take action against these key themes each day of the week. So yesterday you'll see the focus was around portion planning and buying. And I guess the question to you is, can you commit to making a list each and every time you go to the shops? I mean, it doesn't have to be a list that is, you know, a week's worth of food. It's just simply thinking ahead, thinking about what you're buying, how much, and exactly when you plan to use it all. It might only cover a couple of meals, but I guess it's just thinking, do you really need a sack of potatoes, or just buy individual quantities you need? So today we'll be focusing on social around fridge optimization. And I think if there's one thing that I'd like you all to do today after or at some point today, is to check your fridge temperature and make sure it is below 5 degrees. And if you're not sure how, we've got a really handy tool on our website. You'll see the Chill the Fridge Out blue icon there. So just search Chill the Fridge Out in our lovefoodhatewaste.com. And it will give you the instructions for your exact fridge make and model, and give you really simple guidance on how you can adjust your fridge temperature. It's quite confusing sometimes, where you maybe only have a dial rather than a temperature gauge. So we'll also be looking at date labels. So if you have anything with a use by date rather than a best before, really that's all you need to be concerned about. The rest is always good to eat way longer than the best before date. So if you've got anything approaching its use by date, so it's things like meat, fish, dairy, then just use the freezer is probably the best bit of advice that I can give. It will just press pause on those foods so that you can use it another day before it's reached its use by date. Completing is something that we have spoken about in campaigns before, and this really is about complete eating the whole ingredient. So, you know, do you really need to peel your potatoes for mash or chips, or peel your carrots? You absolutely don't. It's a really simple change, and it saves so much faff and time peeling, and also reduces food waste. With many of us spending time at home, I think it's really nice that we don't have to just simply have a boring sandwich for lunch every day. It's really nice that you can bulk up your leftovers maybe from the evening meal, and it could give you a free lunch the next day. Saturday we'll be talking about optimizing storage, and storage is really easy. If your products are sealed and stored correctly in an airtight wrap or container, it really does give your food life for so much longer. And as mentioned before, the freezer really is your friend. If you use it as regularly as your fridge, it gives you so much flexibility for your food. So the week is around raising awareness, but also around giving knowledge, tips and tricks on what to do. So check us out on social media. We've got the Love Food Hate Waste handle there, and using the the Food Waste Action Week hashtag, you can share any posts or kind of keep on top of some of the activities that are going on throughout the week. By all means, if you do some great stuff with your food, do share it using that hashtag. Take part in the challenge. If you follow Food Waste Action Week, there are really some amazing prizes, fridge freezers, vouchers, food vouchers. I think a year's supply of milk is even on there, and loads and loads of tips and advice for you to take on board. And please do share any of the cool things that you see with colleagues, friends and family. So that was the end of my presentation. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, or David, I'm not sure if anything's come through in the chat.
If you want to unmute yourself, if it's faster, you can, and just ask a question.
So I can see there's a question there around composting.
Yeah. So how useful is composting?
Oh, absolutely. It's useful because as much, I mean, most of you, I'm not sure what the setup there is in Warwickshire, but I assume you have food waste caddies, so you have a means of recycling your food waste. And, you know, that's great, but it still uses a lot of energy and resource to go through that recycling process. And so composting is a really fantastic way for you to reuse your scraps and put it back into use at home, and is a lot less resource intensive. So, you know, for those things that you really is inedible, so you can put you can't put meat products into your compost pile, but if there are sort of core of vegetables and fruits, or things that you maybe just don't like consuming, and you know, roots and leaves that you maybe wouldn't eat from your veg, by all means composting is a really great solution. But you know, really we want people to eat as much of the edible food as they can, because it's really there for human consumption.
So I believe things like as well egg boxes as well can go into compost, can't they? Because they can't be recycled normally, because most of them aren't cardboard.
Yeah, and there's some great, I actually did my first, being at home in the pandemic, gave me the opportunity to do my first batch of compost, and there's a few techniques and tricks that you can follow online, but it was really, really easy, and it's all gone back out onto my flower beds, and hopefully will give me beautiful blooms and veggies and fruit this summer.
I'm just going to ask, what sort of things are that doing at the moment around kind of, going to say technology, but just being smart with things like packaging and things and work? I know you're doing a lot of work at the moment with supermarkets and other large industry.
Yeah, so some of this comes through from our technical work and the behaviour change interventions team. So I'm trying to think about what things I can and can't share with you at this time. So around one of the projects that we're looking at is around optimising the information that is on your bread packaging. So bread being one of the most wasted foods. We're looking at how we can integrate consumer food waste prevention through the design of the bread pack. So it's not simply just about messages, it's about conveying that the bread is fresher for much longer than people think in their homes. It's about conveying the value of the product and the resources and the work that's gone into producing that loaf, because many people feel, and again from some of our research, many people feel that a standard sliced loaf is only fresh for about 3 days in the home, but when we do a blind taste test, they actually can't tell the difference between 6-day-old bread and 3-day-old bread. So how can we disconnect this kind of number of days with a sense of freshness when actually the taste is still the same? And also freezing being a really, you know, key behaviour. Freezing is so fantastic at extending the life of your products, and bread freezes remarkably well, but there's maybe a false perception of bread not tasting so nice once you've frozen it, and actually it is a really good way to still, you can defrost and use it as fresh, or toast it and use it in other ways. So again, it's just about, you know, giving extra life. And so the project that we're doing with bread is really interesting because it's around incorporating semiotics and design and understanding what the packaging is conveying. There are other pieces of work that look at sort of the developments in technology around the packaging and the materials and substrates used, and where packaging can play a really valuable role for food waste prevention, but also coupling that with some of our plastics work, and where there's some maybe unnecessary packaging that can be changed or improved. So yeah, there's a lot going on. There's lots, like I said, sort of going on in the background, and some of these interventions are maybe very subtle that you maybe wouldn't notice at face value, but are working very hard to make it much easier for people to eat all of their food.
Yeah, I mean, I freeze my bread and I don't notice any difference in it at all. And I know that over the years as well, you've done helped various kind of groups do portioning sizes as well for kind of single people.
Yeah,
So you don't have to open, say, you don't have like a large bread, a loaf, or you don't have to open up all the kind of meat at once. You can open it up in
exactly.
sections instead.
Yeah,
It's just those wonderful kind of small,
split
little,
packs.
yeah, just small changes that I think make all the difference.
Yeah. I think as well, you know, we're all very, very busy, and I think you can get very quickly into the habit of doing something a particular way, or, you know, buying the same old products. And, you know, we also go through a lot of life changes, which means that the people that we live with maybe change, our families grow, various, you know, different changes in diets and needs in the household. And so I guess it's just keeping front of mind, you know, only buy really what you need. It can be very enticing when you're in the supermarket, but if you have that in mind, it just makes it just kind of questioning, like, when am I gonna use this before you buy it? Then it makes it much easier to ensure that you're buying just what you need, rather than kind of greater quantities that you maybe won't get round to using.
Yeah, and do you need to take the buy one get one free offer?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've worked really hard to not have so many of these buy one get one frees available, but there are lots of offers that are enticing. But like I said, if you do find yourself with too much, the freezer is always there, and it really is a fantastic solution. Or even, you know, if your food is approaching its use by date, you've maybe bought too much, you could just simply cook it. It will give you another 2 days after the use by date. So if you've got the oven on for your pizza, chuck a couple of chicken breasts in there at the same time, and then at least you've bought yourself a bit more time to get through that food.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly use that ability to cook it and then freeze it and then recook it again.
Yeah,
And that makes it
reheat
last for a
it.
couple extra months.
Yeah, great.
Right. Well, we haven't got any more questions through the chat, but any more questions? Does anybody want to unmute themselves and ask another question?
So yeah, just to reiterate, if you follow Love Food Hate Waste, there's loads of activity this week. You might have seen some stuff on the media so far with Nadia. There's loads of brilliant competitions, lots of really easy things that you can pick up and adopt in your food management. Yeah, so I hope you can get on board and make the most of some of the assets that are coming out on social.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for everyone coming along and listening in today, and thank you very much to Sian for coming and presenting and answering our questions.
No problem. Thanks.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Bye. Thank you.